Useful experience of analysts from foreign countries on South-to-South learnings was passed on at Banking Association South Africa's INDABA on financial inclusion, held recently at the JSE.
When I look at Kenya, what I'm actually much more impressed with than M-Pesa, which I think is not always well understood. I mean, M-Pesa so far has mainly been a payments model, a very large-scale payments model where an important corporate player was given a significant first mover advantage to go and fill a space where there was huge demand. And so I think what I find most impressive is a number of countries, Ghana, Nigeria, some of the Kenya, really across the continent, that are trying to figure out how do we get more meaningful financial services.
To your mind, and just give me a practical example of what has been your most successful intervention, facilitation, whatever you want to call it.
I could take the example of Sierra Leone, for instance. We've moving in Sierra Leone just after the war in that country. The country was devastated, and it is still classified today as a fragile state. There were not many financial inclusions, so not many financial institutions, sorry. So we moved in, and then after we did our diagnostic in Sierra Leone, we were able to interest different donors. So the role of UNCDF in Sierra Leone and in other countries is that UNCDF has a catalytic role where we bring in all these donors and then work with the government to promote more financial inclusion.
From Standard Bank's perspective, Lowell Campbell, I mean, as head of agent banking, 007, give us a perspective, please.
Is this thing working properly?
Yes,
okay,
it is.
So what I do for Standard Bank is, you rightly put it, agent banking. Just if I can put something up front right at the beginning, is we're separate from Standard Bank South Africa in terms of the access points, which some and the local team alluded to this morning. Although we are one organization, we're extensively involved in Nigeria at the moment, as we do have a mobile money license there. So it's how to deliver to that, how to take the traditional banker's head. Forgive me, I was in banking, then I was out, then I'm back in banking again.
With a conscience this time.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but
okay,
yeah.
Just
no, so I mean, I spent 4 years in Kenya delivering an agent network in Kenya. No, it wasn't an M-Pesa network. So to try and take those lessons and see how we can then sort of like transcend what is the classical problem from a banking perspective, is to say we have BASA, we have all these things we have to look at from a regulatory point of view, and then deal with an agent on the ground who is the person or the product, the entity that's going to deliver our products, who's not regulated by anything. You know, they're entrepreneurs, they really don't care. We're an SKU on their shelf. I'm competing with a bar of chocolate. And if I can't provide the margin that the bar of chocolate will, or something else to replace me, I'm replaceable.
Everybody in the room knows M-Pesa and the legend of M-Pesa and the great success of M-Pesa. And you've got Carlos on your left-hand side, eager to grab you immediately after this panel discussion and tap you for all information you have. But is inclusive banking in Kenya bigger than M-Pesa? Or is M-Pesa it?
Actually, in Kenya, I think you may not be able to discuss the financial inclusion agenda unless if you talked about two convergence areas between banking services. And one is convergence between the banking services and the mobile telephony. And that's where M-Pesa comes in, because there's quite a bit of leverage between the banking services and the mobile telephony that is now picking up quite a bit, given the success of the M-Pesa system. And on the other hand, there is a convergence between the banking services and the distributor network through what we now have as the agency banking model. And that has also picked up quite a bit, because currently we now have about just well over 12,000 agents already recruited. And the number is still growing, with more than half of those recruited by one individual bank. So it is something that is picking up quite a bit. And the role of the regulator as well in the whole setup is critical. And that's where the Kenya Bankers Association, whom I represent, and the regulator have more or less developed a working partnership in which there are a number of initiatives that are coming up to promote the financial inclusion agenda.
And there's been a real revolution in the last 5 years now that there are, maybe 80, 90 countries have financial inclusion strategies of some types. And in most cases, the lead sits with the central bank.
Yeah.
This is revolutionary. So an institution that had as its main job stability, safety, and soundness is now being said by policy, you figure out how to do that in a way that's inclusive.
What we've seen in the past is that many of the programs that have happened in South Africa and other countries is that they haven't really targeted specific audiences. If they're done by financial institutions, they sit in the CSR division or and have a very philanthropic appeal rather than actually seeing what do the clients need, what do the consumers need on the ground, what does the population need, and being able to target the messages to the audiences specifically. And I'll speak to two specific projects or two specific examples. The first one is when you look at children's education, financial education. Telling an 11-year-old child about retirement is probably not the right message to be teaching these people.
But this is happening.
But this is happening across the entire continent. And a lot of it is being changed and shifted now. But when you talk about the earlier panel, people were talking about the fact that we've done all of these programs in the past and we haven't seen any results thereof. Well, that's probably because many of the programs were not designed correctly. Another example is programs that target small business owners, and they open their offices from 9 till 5 during the week. Well, a small business owner can't come and see and talk to you about consumer education or about financial management when they're running their business. And there was a
between 6 in the morning and 9 at night.
Well, right, sure.
Exactly.
So we actually saw a project in Tanzania where they had their office open from Monday to Friday as usual. And then they decided 3 weeks into the program that they wanted to open it on Saturdays and Sundays. And by the end of the project, they actually saw 46% of their clients in 2 days on the weekend.
Carlos, if there are 3 things that we in this room can learn from the Colombia experience, which seems to be considerably more advanced than we are, what are the 3 most significant things that we should be taking away from your lessons that you've learned?
Okay. The first one is that the financial inclusion has to be in the priorities of the national government at the highest level. Secondly, we have to act under a private-public alliance where everyone does what has to do. The government has to intervene in the market, just promoting, articulating, it's a leader, capacity builder, but we have to provide the adequate business climate to facilitate the private sector to develop a financial inclusion strategy. Private-public alliance is absolutely essential. And the third one is very important to keep the financial inclusion national policy apart from political or electoral interests.
I would challenge my team, and I'm going to speak about them just now, to start the collaboration here and to follow up with people that we've been interacting with around particular areas of learning and begin to engage on that. We will certainly take up the challenge to BASA that we begin to coordinate and collaborate a bit more on education. To look at some sort of institutionalization of the South learning and experiences that we feel we should be doing. Yeah, so just some issues on the way forward, but we'll definitely pick it up.